Welcome to session excerpts from Keyhole Software's Retrieval Augmented Generation and Spring AI presentation. Here's Keyhole CTO Jamie Niswonger.
Spring AI is built on the kind of traditional Spring ecosystem. So the way we're used to doing auto configuration, auto wiring, building complex things on POJOs, right? Kind of simplifying the development process, really built around that abstraction idea of portability and modular design, just bringing it to the AI space. Basically, how can we get our data and our APIs to interact with these LLMs, right? Through this Spring model. The vision is really about bringing the familiar Spring style. A lot of us are used to that Spring environment, but it's also getting another option in the AI programming space. Most things you're going to run into are going to be Python based, which there's nothing wrong with that, but a lot of enterprises aren't Python, right? And they don't know Python, they don't have Python programmers. So it's not a huge barrier, but I think there is a barrier there for a lot of enterprises to jump into that kind of code if they don't have Python capable engineers. And if they have Java engineers or Spring specific Java engineers, I think this is a good approach for them. But it's on that portable API idea. You know, there's a lot of different LLMs out there, and like Spring does, as I keep saying, is they put an abstraction layer over the top of that. So I can work with any LLM really, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini or any of the ones. Just about anything you want will be supported. And it is an API, so if there's something that's not supported, it will either come or could be written. Model types, so the different ways we interact with LLMs, whether that be chat or the embedding process itself, whether we're doing image generation or audio stuff, right? Spring has given us model types that support all of those LLM interactions in an abstract way. We'll look at some of that as we look at code. Structured output's kind of a cool feature. You know, the default output of an LLM when you're interacting is unstructured, right? It's text. Well, Spring has built in this feature where you can say, I want my structure to look a certain way, whether that be JSON or XML. And when you do that, it will instruct the LLM through the prompt to generate the results in that format, and it will automatically map the results back to you in that format. Really useful when you want to take results and pass them downstream to something else, right? You don't have to worry about that mapping process and building a structure out of that normally unstructured content. So kind of a cool feature. And then lastly, vector database support, big deal, right? So this vector embedding idea is a central idea to the way LLMs work in general. So we're going to frame this, like I said, in RAG, Retrieval Augmented Generation, for the example. This is just one thing you can do with Spring AI. Again, we're just kind of reinforcing that. But for those that maybe don't know at all what RAG is, it's really about getting better responses from an LLM by giving it some relative context to what we're asking. The idea is, how can we improve the LLM interaction model by getting rid of hallucinations and incorrect or I don't knows or different kinds of answers, or getting private data in. So before I actually show you code and talk about the design of this, I'm just going to show you an implementation that I built for this Spring AI RAG, and then we'll back our way into how we built it, how it works. Everybody's familiar with Slack? What I have here is the ability for a Slack bot, a Keyhole Slack bot, to answer questions in specific channels relative to the context of the channel. So notice here I have an employee handbook channel and I have a Minn Kota channel. Okay. If I go to the employee handbook channel and I say, hello, it seems like you mentioned Keyhole, which refers to Keyhole Software, Midwest-based software, right? So it's greeting me in the context of Keyhole. If I go here to Minn Kota and I say, hello, it says, hello. How can I assist you with the Tarova quest? Minn Kota is a trolling motor, by the way, if you don't know. It's for fishing, boating. So something that I found interesting. So not too exciting there, but key is I'm in two different channels talking about specific things, and it knows this context, and it's giving me automatic answers, right? So if I come here now and I say, tell me about the motor. I didn't say the Tarova quest. I didn't say the trolling motor. I just tell me about the motor. The Tarova Quest is an advanced bow mount trolling motor designed by Minn Kota, blah, 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 right? So it's answering questions. And notice I'm getting context sensitive, to my conversation I'm having, right? That information is coming from this PDF. All right, so I took this PDF document I did that embedding process that I just described where I broke it into chunks. I created vector embeddings and I stored it in a vector database. And then I gave it to Spring AI and said, use this. To the employee handbook, I can say, do we have a 401k plan? Yes, Keyhole Software does have a 401k plan, eligible, blah, 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 right? So it gives me that. All of that information, it's not pulling from the interwebs, right? It's pulling it out of the employee handbook it's chunked that up, stored that, and all of my answers are coming from that handbook. I can say, who is Lauren? You nervous? And I didn't say Lauren Bogner, right? I said, who is Lauren, right? So that's coming out of the handbook, right? She's a contact at Keyhole. She appears to be involved in various aspects, employee support, blah, 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 right? If I ask something it doesn't know, is she cool? It should know this. Everybody knows this. But based on the context provided, I can't specifically say whether Lauren is cool or not. However, she seems to be important. It didn't make up something, right? It's looking at the context, giving me answers that are relevant or saying I don't know. So let's jump over and look at code. I wrote all this using Spring AI, and it's really full featured. Documentation's good. Let's just kind of break this down. So this is a Maven-based Spring project, including the Spring AI BOM. It allows me to pull in my OpenAI piece right here. Spring Starter Web is just so I can interact with it through REST, right? That's normal Spring. That's not Spring AI. And then I include specifically a Chroma vector store that I'm using because I want to use Chroma for this. So this is the kind of abstraction you get where I can include model Olama or model Anthropic and use a different LLM and the same features still work. But I do that through configuration. I then have a document reader because I built endpoints so that I could send PDFs over, chunk them up, create embeddings and store them. And I needed something to break my documents up, and they provide this Tika document reader to do that. The rest of this is normal Spring pieces, or because I built a Slack bot, it's using the Slack APIs, right? If I look at my configuration properties, normal Spring looking thing, the only real AI thing I have here is I've told it that I want to use this embedding model for my Chroma. I set up my Chroma DB. I'm running it in Docker locally. So that's this, running localhost. And I have two collections. Chroma DB breaks databases into what they call collections. And so I separate my Minn Kota stuff from my employee handbook stuff. I then, this is where we get springy, right? This is the Spring side of it. So I build a normal Spring configuration. And in my Spring configuration, I need to build a couple different things. A reference to my vector store based on these collections. I send a prompt through a channel in Slack. That channel is my indicator of what my context is. There's this thing called a question and answer advisor. This is the key to RAG and Spring, is create one of these. I gave it my vector store, and then I have some parameters here. What's my similarity threshold? You know, how close do I want you to be? I have some dials I can turn. How many results I want to get back for the context? If you know Spring or Java at all, it's pretty easy to follow, I think. Then start back at the top and just kind of walk through this. This is Slack specific, but this is my entry point to start the whole process off, right? I built a Slack API that listens for Slack events. I unpack the event. So I basically say what channel it came from, what user it came from, and then I have what they ask, you know, what the text is, what was in the prompt, and then the channel name itself. From there, this is the one line of code in this class that I'm using to do anything with LLMs or RAG. So I say RAG service, give me a chat response for this channel, for this user, for this prompt. The reason the user is important is we could have lots of people having a conversation in a channel, right? And I need to separate this user's context history with this user's conversation or context history, right? So that's why that's there. If I look at get chat response, I basically then just go get that question and answer advisor that I just showed you, right? By the channel. And then I format my prompt. So I say chat client, abstraction, I didn't write, prompt using this advisor with this user prompt, using these messages, this is where it builds the whole history. I have chat memory, and then I say, give me a response. And then I save that to the chat memory. That's the Spring code to do what I just did. Nothing else, no magic, nothing on my sleeves, right? Really, really simple to do. Once it gets the response here, it then sends the message through the Slack API back to the Slack client, and it works. If I look at these question and answer advisors, this is Spring, this is not me. I didn't have to build a connection to Chroma, do the query, get the results, format them, attach them to the prompt, right? It did all that for me. All I had to do was tell it, I want this type of question and answer advisor attached to this Chroma DB, tell the chat client to use that, and it does the RAG thing for me, right? I didn't have to do that myself. Pretty simple to build. I think I spent maybe 8 to 10 hours over, a couple evenings to get it to function. And then I'm kind of a particular about the way my code looks, so I go through it several times. But just to get it to function was quite easy. And I think you guys would find that as well. Read the document, break it into chunks, send the chunk to the data store. The data store API embedded it for me based on the embedding format I wanted. Notice, and this, I didn't really point this out, I don't think, but this will be the last thing I say, I promise. We need to quit. In here, where I'm actually doing the real LLM RAG work, there's no reference to Chroma or OpenAI, right? If I wanted to swap this to Anthropic and Weaviate, I just change my dependencies, change my config class to configure those to connect, and all this code still runs. So that's the Spring flavor of this, right? That's what Spring does well.
Very relevant.
Yeah, so it allows me to build this really abstract code and handle that kind of stuff through configuration.
Interested in a deeper dive? Keyhole offers this full presentation to enterprise development teams, exploring AI and custom development solutions. Learn RAG core concepts and why it's critical for enterprise AI adoption. See Spring AI in action and how it simplifies connecting LLMs with vector databases. Book a session today.